Welcome back to the Professional Lovers channel. I'm Al.
I'm Patty.
And we are the Professional Lovers.
Getting ready to recap another week of Married at First Sight. And this is a little doozy. But it kind of goes along with what we talked about last week, which was our 4 red flag couples.
Yeah.
So, this week's episode, other couples who hadn't been to each other's houses, visited each other's houses, and Pastor Cal made a visit to everyone.
Just to get an update, see where they're at.
Right, so let's get into it. Nicole and Chris are a great couple so far, our couple of the week.
Again.
I was going to say for the past 2 weeks, but let's just throw them in there for this week too.
Yeah.
Doing great. She met his dogs. He met her dog. The dogs met each other. Seemed to get along okay.
Everybody seemed cool.
Their big discussion before Pastor Cal was about their leases, which were coming up.
For renewal.
And so Chris, was wanting to know how she felt about, renewing or not renewing the lease. She was like, I don't really want to live apart. That's not the way to be in a marriage. True. And he was like, well, true. At the same time, we don't know what's going to happen. True. So we don't want to be homeless in case,
anything.
God forbid, we don't stay together.
And let me just say that for the simple fact that he's willing just to put it out there because, again, it's not like he's being pessimistic or, the opposite of optimistic, which is pessimistic, but just the reality. Just the reality. And to me, it's not even the subject matter. It's the fact that they are willing to discuss those hard issues, that are difficult to kind of, they don't tiptoe around subjects that they want to get answers to, and they discuss possibility, and I think that is a critical component to their union.
Oh, and that's what has, I think, made them our couple of the week for so many weeks running, because right now they are willing to have those tough conversations. Although, I agree with Pastor Cal in that, the discussion of, renewing separate leases and having a lease, and versus whether or not you just look at the marriage as a marriage. And I said during the time we were watching this that every season, most of the couples look at the marriage as an 8-week.
An experiment.
But it ends in 8 weeks.
Yeah, it's like an 8-week marriage.
Yeah, and instead of looking at the marriage as this is a commitment that we've made to stay married.
Yeah, for life.
So they start the marriage with divorce as an option, which our book says, and we're bringing this in for the first week, that you never make divorce an option.
Because if you're really committed to a marriage, if you're committed to a union, and I understand the reality of this setup,
but it's still a marriage.
But you're right, and you have left it up to other individuals who are experts, for lack of a better term, in personalities and characters. And for whatever reason you choose to be part of this process, you supposedly are committed to the process. And again, you are married.
And in week 24 of our book, Becoming a Professional Lover, it says you motivate resolutions by never making divorce an option. So if divorce is not on the table, it forces you to come to a resolution of differences.
It forces you to work at it.
Yeah. And so, but Nicole, in wanting to support, what Chris thought would be best in the plan B scenario, the just in case, they went ahead and renewed their leases. So Pastor Cal said, if you both want the marriage to succeed, then it will succeed.
Right.
But it's and we know it's difficult when you go into something as an 8-week experiment to not think of it as an 8-week experiment.
I mean, in all actuality, not to be spiritually over the top, but it's like faith. What is it that you have faith in when you open up your eyes every single day? You believe that you are on this earth to move forward. You don't give up because, something might hurt. We're in this society now where if it's broke, we can replace it.
Yeah.
As opposed to trying to fix it. The way things used to be made, they were built for endurance. Nowadays, if something's not right, we just discard it. That cancel culture type thing. And
one mistake and you're out.
Yeah, you can miss out on so much by having that mentality. And
True.
you can build on so much if you're committed to your spouse.
True. So the other thing that Pastor Cal asked Chris was if he was afraid that Nicole, who's very, she can be in your face and, whether or not she would ever blow up on him. And he said he really had no fear of that because knowing how he's been in past relationships, he feels like he has
built a backbone.
Yeah, and that he knows how to handle her. So, we'll see if that continues to hold. Because I'm sure that something's coming down the pike for them. Probably. When it comes to her volatility. Dom and Mackinley. Okay, so this was yet another week of me talking to the TV, to them, to her, about her attitude. So anyway, he visited her apartment. And, she was like, hey, browse around, look around.
But they visited his first.
Oh, that was last week.
Yeah, I know. And I think continue. No, I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, he went into the visit of her apartment with a mindset of, okay, I'm going to see where she lives. I'm sure it'll be wonderful. I'm like the big loser here. So he already had a negative attitude, which she hates. Okay.
Yeah. But she kind of...
She sets it up that way. She does. Because of all the nitpicking. Anyway, so she was like, go ahead, browse through. And he was like, oh, don't need to do that. Which set her off. She felt like, she read all into that, like he's not really enthusiastic about me because he's not enthusiastic about looking through my place, and so he doesn't really want to know me. And we had this discussion during the show where I was kind of feeling Dom's perspective because Mackinley doesn't give her a whole lot, and I was feeling Mackinley's perspective because
what he does give, she beats up.
Exactly. So why keep giving? Now, we know psychologically it's difficult for a man to keep getting picked at.
Or beat up on, really. I mean, and I say that, in a broad range. His way of being beat up on is how there's a reservation on anything relating to him. Coming from her, he doesn't like the horseback ride. I mean, he's just expressing the fact that, hey, I'm an introvert. I don't normally do these things, but he said, and I can understand how it's being taken, that he's doing it for her. This is, we're on our honeymoon. I'm doing things for you because this is, I think this is what I'm supposed to do for you. And she's not taking it that way. And it's just weird because it's like both sides are taking the negatives out of everything that takes place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the negatives,
and they got into this thing about his dog.
Yeah.
Now doesn't have his dog,
Right.
because he was not
committed to a location.
Right, and he didn't want to bring the dog
Yeah.
into an unsettled situation. In his mind, I've gotten married. Now I'm settling down. Let me bring the dog. And she has poo-pooed the dog coming. I don't want hair all over the place. I don't want to sleep on the bed. So, just like you said, they are focusing and harping on and jumping up and down on the negatives
of every single situation.
Yes. And so therefore, why would he be enthusiastic?
Yeah.
And they just feed off of each other. Their negativity is fed off of each other's negativity, which they perpetuate in how they talk about the stuff that they're talking about. So, so he is not enthusiastic. He doesn't feel like she wants anything that he wants. And she feels like it's too exhausting to make him do stuff, to, pull things out of him. And it got to the point where, she even categorized the discussion about the dog as a trivial argument. Really? Are we arguing about the dog? Which for him is not trivial,
really,
because
it's part of his life.
It's his dog.
And it's part of his life.
Right.
So you look at what I have in my life as trivial. I'm looking out for who I have spent time with by keeping him in a stable situation while I figure something out. And the only thing that you can come out of that discussion with, other than the fact that when you said you are unsure of where you want to be, or you're in what was the statement she made about you don't do this but you jump into a marriage?
Well, you can't find a place to stay, or you don't want to jump into finding a place to settle in, but you can jump into a marriage.
But you jump into a marriage with somebody so you can establish a place.
So you can settle.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole point.
I mean, and again, you literally do jump in this case, but again, if you're not rushed, and I mean, again, he's just short of mid-30s, right? And he's financially stable.
And that's the interesting thing. He has no financial issue.
None.
And he brought that out, and Pastor Cal basically seconded that.
Yeah.
Now, usually you're having this kind of discussion about being unstable and unsure because the person is financially unstable.
Or you're struggling or whatever.
But he doesn't have that issue.
No.
And so, unfortunately, then this dynamic came to a head to where Dom decided she wasn't moving in. They went to her apartment. They got her stuff, brought it to this apartment, got embroiled in this argument about the dog and not compromising and all of that. And she was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not feeling this. I'm going back home. And took her stuff back home.
The producer asked, he said, so you're just going to take all of this stuff back down to the car? Yep. And then go home, take a shower.
And actually,
a bath.
Yeah. And very, I'll just go home and take a bath. Like, I mean, it was it's a brush off.
Yeah, this is. It's just,
And again, she may not feel that committed because she didn't sign herself up for this.
And that's always been in the back of my mind.
Yeah. So this is what Pastor Cal walks into. Mm-hmm. And as they sit on opposite sides of the couch, he's like,
sit down.
To her, you look like you are poised for battle.
You ready.
And, they ended up, she says, well, I'm not, who he expected, and he's not who I expected. And it was interesting how Pastor Cal numerized the things that they both said they were looking for. Mm-hmm. Dom, you said you wanted this. And Mackinley, you said you wanted this. And that's who we gave you.
Yeah.
So either you all lied on your applications and what you told us, or you're just not willing to see past the things that don't ring positive for you.
Yeah,
And
I don't even know how to relate to that. I mean, because they're not giving it a chance. They're not giving each other a chance.
At all.
You know, I mean, they're two separate personalities, two totally different types of individuals. So, I mean, Dom is bubbly and cheery, all grins, and, you know, everything is fine. Everything can be fine, but sometimes it ain't. And if it's not, what do we do to move forward? Okay, if this is the way you are, how do I relate to you in, you know, how I'm assuming this is something I'm not accustomed to. But if this is you, is this the true you that I'm supposed to accept? And if so,
well, she claims that she claims he's a Mr. Jekyll and Dr. Hyde.
Yeah, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Whichever way it is.
Flip floppy.
Yeah, that he's one way off camera and one way on the camera, and we've heard those accusations before in other seasons with other couples. I just think that they have both checked out because, you know, Mackinley feels beat down, and Dom feels that he's not, you know, that his negativity, his constant negativity is just a huge turnoff for her. Yeah. So they're not willing at this point to stop judging each other. And so I'm sure that they're headed for a split before the 8 weeks is over. Gina and Clint, another one. She still hasn't gotten over the comment he made on the honeymoon, even though she did tell everybody that he apologized. And, you know, he went to her apartment, which was just, you know, in the same building where his apartment is. But she decided that she didn't want to move in either.
Yeah.
You know, she didn't feel in a good space to move in. She felt like if they moved in together, it would drive them further apart than, you know, bringing them together. That if they lived separately, they could still, you know, get to know each other and really find out who the other person is. But he was like, I don't really see that being healthy.
True.
You know.
And it allows her to be who she's already confessed to be, which is a runner.
Exactly. And so, you know, he wants to do everything to make it work, and she's not convinced that being together will do that. And so we go back to our book, Becoming a Professional Lover, where tip week 31 says, togetherness in work and play will keep you bonded. And, you know, marriage was designed for people to be together to create a single unit. Right? And so the more that you do together, the stronger your tie becomes. And so this idea of living separately while we work on a marriage, you're shooting yourself in the foot, really.
Yeah.
You know, you're making it more difficult to create a bond together.
Because as you're doing things separately, you're still not learning about each other.
Right. And as the tip points out, it's dangerous to live life separately because it can give rise to subtle things that will end up tearing you apart more than actually bonding you together.
True.
So, of course, when Pastor Cal came in and heard that that's what she wants to do, he, you know, went against that idea as he would. And he said that each step of not being together gets you closer toward not being together.
True.
You know, but she decided that she was going to stick with that.
Yeah.
And she decided that she was not going to move in. So Clint, you know, I have to give it to him, even though he says some things sometimes that are, you know, tactless and off the cuff. You know, he's committed.
Yeah.
And he wants to see this work. He wants to do everything to make it work.
And but in his expressing how he felt about making it work, he still never said anything about her.
True.
And, what he would be willing to do for her, or what she is, what she's about, or, anything positive that she could absorb personally and say that, okay, he is, about me.
Yeah, because didn't Pastor Cal ask him why do you want to make this work or something? And it was like, about I'm not a quitter.
I'm not a quitter.
I don't want to fail.
You can do that with a turtle.
I'm committed, and it was nothing about her.
Yeah, and that's not a whole lot to go on.
Yeah. All right, so Jasmine and Eris. Pastor Cal came in and said that, asked about the wedding, and she says, oh, I was relieved, But their big discussion centered around him not feeling the physical attraction toward her as she does toward him. Which, again, is weird, and we've talked about this already.
Just something flashed in my mind. Do you think, considering where she's coming from, her background, yada, 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 that he has put her on a pedestal?
I don't think that.
No?
No. I don't think that. I think it goes back to he's not sure how he's supposed to feel as a married man. And we've talked about this at length, so I don't want to rehash.
But in a way, that's part of it. I mean, and when I'm saying putting her on a pedestal, it's like he can't treat her the way he's treated all the other ones in the past. Okay. From that standpoint, maybe so. Because of him thinking this is my wife. I can't have that in my mind, thinking about my wife that way.
And yet that's what she wants.
Exactly.
She wants to be desired. Yeah. She wants her clothes ripped off. She wants, and he admitted that he was ready to do that at the beginning. But, now he's confused.
Well, but.
And maybe when he saw all those crowns, when he went to visit her parents' house, because that's where she lives. And, he saw all the crowns, and that kind of threw him for a loop. So he met them 13 dogs, but he fell in love with them.
Yeah, he did.
But
at least one.
Yeah, I think he's very confused about how he's supposed to feel. And he thinks that there is a major difference. And it's okay. He thinks there's a major difference in how you act as a player and how you act as a married man.
And there is,
but the only difference is that instead of looking at every single person, every female that you're with as a lay, you think of just one as a lay. Your wife.
But that's a psychological adjustment for a guy. I mean, especially a hunter. I mean, somebody that, I see that, I want that, I got to have that. After you've conquered, it's like, okay, next, what's the next quest? What's the next conquest? Whereas with your wife, that's a lifelong attitude you have to maintain.
That's a lifelong conquest.
Well, but again, as
lifelong
a player,
hunting with one person.
As a player, you don't think about lifelong nothing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's the adjustment part, but it's not like just because you got one person, then it's like, oh, I can't do that anymore.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm thinking that he thinks he can't think that way.
Well,
that's, yeah. I think he has a psychological block there.
He does. Now, Pastor Carl asked each of them, what do you like about the other person? And they named, the things that they like about each other, and that she's a great role model with the kids she works with. She works with kids. So he does feel like they matched him with who he needed. And that's another key in a lot of these matches that they make. Not the ones that are just like totally wrong. But matching couples with the person that they need based on what they said, how they want to grow as people, how they want to develop themselves, the values that they have. And often they are not the people they typically go for.
You're right.
Which is the whole point. Because if you could just keep going for the people that you go for, you keep getting the result that you get.
True.
So, so he's got to do a switch, turn off and turn on.
What do you think would happen if she jumped his bones?
Well, it might get him out of that. I mean,
I think it would.
Here's the thing. If you said that a guy who's a hunter wants to hunt, she needs to give him something to hunt for.
Well, give him a taste of something.
I'm saying she needs to let him see
what he can be getting.
What he can hunt for.
Yeah, true.
Until he can flip that switch.
Get on board, Aris.
Kristen and Shaq, our last couple. Kristen. I did that.
Ooh,
Kirsten and Shaq. So Pastor Cal comes to them, and the funny thing is, he asked her, is there any physical attraction?
No, he said, is there any chemistry?
Any chemistry?
She's like,
she said, not
really. And he looked at her like,
huh? And he was like, I feel totally different. I think that there is. And when you see them interact, especially her, when she said that, we were both very kind of like,
I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand that statement.
Because they're playful, they're touchy-feely, and all of that. So for her to say not really much chemistry, then you got to wonder, well, how does she define that? And again, is it all sexual? As in, just because we're not... And she seems to have some hang-ups with that. Anyway, the whole intimacy thing.
Yeah.
So, she talked about his joking, and Pastor Cal was like, what is that? I'm corny. My wife says I'm corny. Why is that a big deal? Well, I want to get more connected with him emotionally. Yet, come to find out, she's not really willing to be vulnerable.
That's it.
I want to connect with him emotionally, but I keep walls up. Okay? That's
not fair.
Oxymoron. You can't connect emotionally if you're not willing to connect.
True.
It's not a one-sided thing. So, Pastor Cal talked about, them doing things to, make that connection better, easier, and told her that she's got to talk. Yeah. She has to communicate about herself, because he said, Shaq cannot respond to what you're feeling.
True.
If you're not letting him know what you're feeling. That's this. He should
can't
just
read
know.
Your mind.
But and women tend to do a lot of that. Can I talk? Can I use my own words, please?
It just happened to be mine too.
But he should just be able to tell. He should be able to see what I'm doing, or see what
understand,
see my body language, and see my facial expressions, and know what he's supposed to do.
All of that can be alleviated or enhanced by your words.
Right. You can't just make assumptions like that. And you shouldn't make assumptions like that. You have to talk. Because then when you think that he should be responding a certain way and he's not, then you're all upset, and you start building these narratives in your head and taking them further and further and further than where they really need to be.
Oops.
And, he just messed up the camera. And then it turns into a whole thing that didn't need to be there. Excuse us while we adjust this. Okay.
We're back.
So, he ended by saying, they are really an example of a power couple if they make things work.
Yeah, just get get through to each other and be vulnerable with each other to strengthen one another and the relationship.
Right. Otherwise, their strength could blow each other up, is what he said.
Because he literally told Kirsten that, if what exactly did he do? I just got a brain fart. Sorry, y'all. But
that gray hair on top of his head.
Basically, she needed to kind of get out of her own way, and allowing him to be silly, be whatever. I mean, okay, that out of all of what he is, he's jokey. You're gonna have to learn how to ignore that. If you want the rest of it, okay, there's an element that it's not pleasing. It's not unpleasing, because at times you like it, at times you don't. But do you just throw out the baby with the bathwater? Come on.
In other words, Cal was like, that's not really an issue.
It really is.
Or not. That really should not be an issue. And I could say it shouldn't be, because he's kind of the same way. He can be silly and goofy. And sometimes it's like, ha-ha. And then sometimes it's like...
When is that?
But that's part of who he is. And you just take all of that and you sift through it, and he's never, I think I can safely say, he's never silly in critical times where you
inappropriately.
Yeah. I don't know. He's not. You're not.
No.
But otherwise, sometimes it can just be too much.
I might have to try that one day, though.
Especially when he's dealing with other people that he doesn't know, like in the store and whatever, and he's trying to make jokes and they're not getting it because they don't know him. And, it's kind of like, that's not where their head even is, and he's trying to make jokes, and I'm like, okay, can we just leave the store?
You've come across people that don't know my jokes?
So, but you just disregard that, right?
Like she just did.
Because that's just who he is. And the ones who get it, they laugh. It makes him feel good, and all that. And the other ones just kind of look at him like, what? So.
They're smart people.
Anyway, so it's not really a big deal. So that's where we are. We've got 2 couples not living together. And 2 other couples struggling to find their way. And 1 couple still sailing. So that's it for this week. Next week, we'll see how they continue to fare, and if either the 2 couples who are not living together, make different decisions.
We shall see.
Until then, we want you to love yourself.
And each other.
Bye.
Peace.